Hi, my name's Sean, and this is another comic book review. Let me just turn into my alternate ego, Delgo Belagassi.
Oh yeah! Today I'm gonna be reviewing Do a Powerbomb by Mike Spicer and Daniel Warren Johnson. I'm not gonna be able to do that voice very often.
For that ladder.
Do a Powerbomb, which is now probably one of my favorite comics, favorite graphic novels I've ever read. Probably reignited my love for wrestling. Hey, what are you doing? Why are you coming up to me? As a kid, I was never allowed to watch wrestling. I had to sneak on Friday Night SmackDown while my parents weren't paying attention. I definitely wasn't getting away with Monday Night Raw. SmackDown was at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Raw was at 9 p.m. on a Monday, so no shot that I was going to be able to watch that. So I'd sneak on Friday Night SmackDown. I'd flick it to a channel. I'd flick it to something else like SpongeBob or whatever. A lot of times Cartoon Network was doing like Friday night Billy and Mandy events. So I would like quickly switch it to that and be like, just Billy and Mandy, Mom. Not watching. They're like, good, wrestling will make you stupid. And let me tell you, it worked, brother! Do a Powerbomb is clearly made by somebody who loves wrestling. That's all I can say about this. And I think we should just get right into the plot. The story starts out with Yua Steel Rose going up against her former tag team partner turned rival Cobra Sun. The match is being watched by Lona, Yua's daughter. She is staying with Uncle Blood, Yua's trainer. Now during the match, Cobra Sun unfortunately slips, breaking Yua Steel Rose's neck. A tragedy known throughout the wrestling world of Do a Powerbomb. Fast forward deep into the future.
Deep, brother!
You have Lona Steel Rose attempting to become a wrestler herself. Her uncle refuses to train her. Her father is constantly reminding her that her mother died wrestling and that she should not do it as well. But Lona knows that her mother was great, and she too is destined for greatness. Shortly after her match and establishing the doubts that family members have and the fact that she is being refused training help from her uncle, she is approached by a necromancer. This necromancer has an extreme love for wrestling and offers her up a bargain. If Lona Steel Rose can win his tag team tournament in the underworld or the altar world or the world that he has been trapped in, then she can resurrect one person, obviously her mother. So that's the plot. That's what gets the whole thing going. Obviously, Lona needs to find a tag team partner, and she needs to find someone to train her. So she goes and she finds Cobra Sun, the person who killed her mother. Big reveal, Cobra Sun is actually Lona's father. Cobra Sun is wearing a mask, which is why this is a big reveal, and throughout the entire story, up until essentially the end, Lona is completely unaware that she's wrestling with her father. It's a bit of a plot hole for me, but I am okay with it. It's an Alfred Hitchcock quote, that the audience knows that it's her father, but she does not know it's her father. I believe one is tension and the other is suspense. I think tension is if she knows, and suspense is when we know. Let's jump into this tournament. Willard Necrotongue, the necromancer, has been chained to this realm in an attempt to stop him from taking over all of these different universes in the multiverse. That has been his goal throughout all of time until finally he was held in this realm. And being held in this realm, he didn't have anything to do but watch TV, and he fell in love with wrestling. Now, that is why he's holding the tournament. And on top of that, brother, he doesn't know that wrestling's fake. So when Lona tries to tell him that wrestling is fake, he's confused and doesn't understand because the tournament's already in motion. And a lot of the wrestlers in the tournament also don't think that wrestling's fake. That's right, brother. The other people that they're going in tag team matches against are also fighting for something that really matters to them. In comparison to the main goal that the main character is trying to accomplish, some of these other goals are way more important. Now, one of the main goals and major goals, I'll skip through the first couple of matches. I don't want to ruin the whole story because it's just so amazing. The match that exemplifies this point the most is the match against the Knights of Rhine. The Knights of Rhine are attempting to have the Necromancer bring back to life the very wizard that died in battle, trapping the Necromancer to this realm. Because if the Necromancer gains any more strength, there is the option that he could break out of this realm and start to take over all of the universe. So the Knights of Rhine are trying to have this tournament be a way that they can resurrect the wizard that stopped him in the first place. Obviously, the person they're trying to resurrect is way more important than Lona's mother who died in a fake wrestling match. You immediately identify with what they're fighting for, but this is the main character and you followed this story, so you already identify with this, and you are rooting for her to win, but you're not exactly upset if the other person wins. That is part of the beauty of wrestling. The story, the drama, I mean, it's... we all know the deal. We all know the deal. It's fake. But first of all, how fake? And second of all, of course it's fake. You want to follow a good story. What happens is there is a tag team called FYSO. Stands for Fuck Your Stupid Opinions. That's their tag team name. It's awesome. And they're jerks. So Cobra Sun offers a eliminations anywhere, no disqualification, tables, ladders, chairs match. I don't think it's tables, ladders, and chairs, but it's very similar. It's like, barbed wire, blood, the works, in order to create a more dramatic final battle between the two. FYSO are two people that are not related whatsoever. One lost her son, and the other lost his daughter, and as soon as they win the tournament, they decide, and it's already been predetermined and agreed to, that the two of them will fight in a death match against each other to decide who will be risen from the dead. Before they're even named victors, they both kill each other. And they both end up dying, which means that Cobra Sun and Lona Steel Rose win by default. So amazing, so dramatic, so awesome. They are able to revive Yua Steel Rose. So they go into the back after they're named champions. The Necromancer then explains that he may have overestimated his abilities to raise people from the dead. He is in fact not really a Necromancer, he's just kind of an evil wizard. He does present an option to wrestle God. Like Big G, Big G upstairs. Literally, they go upstairs to heaven and they fight in a match. They wrestle against God. So ultimately, the story ends with them having to accept when someone's dead, they're dead. When someone's gone, they're gone. But what matters is their memory and the way that they affected the people around them. It's an amazing story. You feel like you know where it's going a little bit, but the literal wrestling with the idea of God, like, how doctors are said to be playing God? This is literally wrestling with the concept of life and death, wrestling with God. I mean, you can't power scale any more than they fight God. The story just ends really, really satisfyingly. I would recommend this to basically everybody. The character development is fantastic. Yua's killer being her own husband, and Lona not knowing that her father is her own tag team partner. Even Uncle Blood, her mother's trainer, and I believe her mother's brother comes back later on. You as Steel Rose, even though she only gets one scene at the beginning, there is flashbacks that build her up as a mother more so than a wrestler, even though throughout the entire story she's remembered very fondly as a wrestler. It doesn't feel like I'm being made to feel there's something that somebody says that triggers this memory. It's like, oh man, that reminds me of that time I had with my mom. And you're like, well, what is that time that you had with your mom? And then we flash back to it. It's not flashback. She like sees someone and goes, oh. Even the side characters have their own development when you find out what people are fighting for. And that brings me right into the world building. There is a beautiful page that I love. Lettered awesome. All the characters are shown. All the fighters are shown. All of the fighters have their own brands. The bracket is shown. You get to see who's fighting against who. You get to see the worlds that they're from, the universes that they're from, everything that you could want to know about how this tournament is getting set up. It's like a fight card. Again, another thing that I think really helped was the Knights of Rhine and their battle, and implying that there's this greater war happening in the background that matters so much more in a different dimension than the battle that's happening privately between Lona and her father and her family and her feelings about becoming a wrestler and being successful. And it's really great because all of these side characters you feel have their own story that you would be willing to follow just as intently. I mean, I could easily see Do a Powerbomb following each of these characters and them being the main character and having to learn the same exact lesson. It's really, really well done. There's not much for me to say about the art. The characters are awesome. It took a second for me to get into it because it was a little rough, but once my eyes adjusted to what it looked like and I read through the story, I was non-stop going. I took time to look at the art. I didn't see anything that was out of the ordinary, and if it was out of the ordinary, it was in a positive way. You can see the wrestling moves. I mean, doing movement in a comic is not the easiest thing in the world. You have to find that perfect split-second snapshot of the motion that's being done for everybody who's reading, even non-wrestling fans, to understand what that motion is. And I think that that is perfectly captured in a way that only someone who really loves wrestling and really cares about wrestling can do. The background art, also fantastic. I was trying to find a way to dock this points, but I just couldn't. I looked at the backgrounds and I said, yeah, these are great. And I moved right along with that point. Next, I would do the print quality. You don't really see it here, but this character has that glossy thing that I like on books, where it's like just the outline of this character has a little bit of gloss to it, and Do a Powerbomb has a little gloss to it. But You as Steel Rose does not have a little bit of gloss to her, which I think is just a little bit interesting. I just think it's interesting because she's not a main character. Main character, not a main character. Main character, not a main character. Not to get too deep into it, but the pages aren't like that kind of overly glossy thing, but they're not overly magazine-ish. I'm trying to find a way to go over the top in terms of saying that the print quality is good, but the print quality is just what I need it to be, and then past that, no problems. Pulled it out, saw that cover, and then I read it the very same night, and I finished it the very same night. I have been into wrestling
Ever since, brother.
Amanda, why is the bed in the middle of the living room? I can't stop. Paneling is great. There was no time that I was confused while reading it. They also do some really interesting work with the way panels are created in order to create action. There's some really great work in involving panels with the announcing, because a big part of wrestling is, especially the WWE, is the announcing. The announcing is fantastic, and I think that this does a really good job of making the necromancer, Willard, the announcer, and giving him some kind of interesting panel setups in order to really show off that him being the announcer is adding to some of the drama, which is a lot of fun. The paneling really helps to make some of the action scenes pop out at you, make them more intense, make them more fun, make them more exciting, make them more immersive. It's great. And the lettering just as well, very, very important aspect of comic making. But branding is a very important aspect of being a wrestler. So you have to assume that if the lettering is no good, then the branding is no good. And let me tell you, both of them are great in this. the times where the onomatopoeia is really front and center, the lettering is fantastic. I also like the wording in this, the word bubbles. I don't know if they used like a classic comic book font. There is a font at least that was used that gives it sort of a handwritten element to it, which helps a lot for immersing someone into the story. This is one where I feel a lot of books would fall or just kind of do the bare minimum. Cover gallery, done by some really great artists that I believe are actually credited here, so you can see all the artists that you enjoy. Aside from the cover gallery, there are 2 pages of concept art, and that is just enough for me to be satisfied. When I go into the extras, I'm not expecting a ton, but I'm expecting something. And a cover gallery to me is just, take all the old covers, throw them in the back of the book. That's something, which is not really, it's starting to become not enough for me anymore. The addition of the concept art helps a ton. Let's grade this thing. Starting with the plot, obviously I'm giving that a thumbs up. The character development, I am going to preface by saying it's a thumbs up, but I would have liked to see a little bit more development in Willard Necroton, but he's not the main character, and he's not even really that much of a villain, so it's okay that it didn't happen, which is why I'll still give it a thumbs up, but I like the story so much that I would have liked it to happen, which is why I'm mentioning this. Next is the world building. The world building is awesome, so much so that I would have read a similar story about any other characters, any other spin-off. I love wrestling, let's get it. This is a world that I think that is an amazing world to develop on because of the way that it's been built. Thumbs up. Next up is the character art. The character art is awesome. You can read a lot of emotion in all the characters' faces. I can understand what's happening in action scenes and during motion, and I can also understand what moves they're doing. That's the best part, is what moves they're doing, brother! I would give the character art a thumbs up. Backgrounds, when there didn't need to be good background art and there didn't need to be much background art and I really just needed to read what I was reading and I really just needed to look at the character, there was no background art, and there was a nice little, color in the back or a gradient or something to kind of fill in that background. But when there was background art that was necessary, oh whoa, it was great. Thumbs up for background art. Paneling and lettering, obviously, both of them, they're usually separate. I usually talk about them together unless there's a serious issue that I have with one or the other. But both of them in this case are fantastic. Highly recommend checking this book out. Boom, that's a thumbs up. This cover is sick. Next up is the print quality. Print quality is nothing to write home about, but it's nothing that's going to catch your attention where you're like, this feels shitty. That's a thumbs up. And finally, the extras. I did not want to give Do a Powerbomb a 10 out of 10. I did not want to do it. But the extras squeaked it out. And that is a thumbs up. This is the first 10 out of 10 that I am giving on this channel. Do a Powerbomb is entering the Hall of Fame automatic recommendation. Anytime that people think they might get interested in comic books, I'm definitely going to recommend this. Anytime people want to get into wrestling or are into wrestling, I'll recommend this. I think that this comic is fantastic, and that's what it is, brother. Thanks for checking me out. I hope to have another review out very soon. I am excited for the way that things have been going. I'm going to be putting out streams 3 days a week, 4 hours a stream on Twitch. Right now, I got myself over there on stream as I make the video. You can see all the mess ups, the screw ups, the thought process, and the self-doubt outside of the editing. So, thank you for checking me out, and until next time, get invested in something imaginary.